In this video, we're going to be taking a look at how we're going to incorporate our wood crate into a desk. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to make some legs for our desk. And we're going to need 6 pieces to make up our legs. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut those 6 pieces to 29 3/8. But the width of our leg is only going to be 2.5 inches wide. So we're going to take a fence picket and we're going to cut 2 pieces, or excuse me, we're going to cut 3 pieces that are 29 3/8 of an inch long. And then we're going to go over to the table saw and we're going to rip those pieces to 2.5 inches wide. So let's go ahead and get that done, and then we'll move on to our next step. All right, so we cut down our 3 pieces to 29 3/8, and then we are going to add some pocket holes. So this does require a pocket hole jig the way we're building it, but there's probably some workarounds you could do where you wouldn't necessarily have to use a pocket hole jig if you don't have one. Okay, so we are going to use a few pocket holes. Now, we'll try to keep track of the materials we're using. Our crate, it took 2 pickets, really a picket and a half. And so here we've used a picket and a half as well to get our 6 legs. So we're at a picket and a half here and a picket and a half here. So it took us, we're up to 3 pickets now. So right now our cost for our desk is $6.60. Now I say a desk, we are going to be building a desk here, but then I'm going to convert that desk into a lemonade stand for my little one. So it'll be kind of a fun process to go through. Now, I'm not going to show you the lemonade stand, how we convert the desk into the lemonade stand part, at least not in this video, but I probably will show you how you could build the desk and then convert it into a lemonade stand if you wanted to. So that's my long-term plan, is to make a lemonade stand for my little girl. But at any rate, we'll just continue on with this process for right now. So the next thing I need to do is on one end, I need to put in 2 pocket screws. Now our fence pickup material is 5/8 of an inch thick, so be mindful of that. And then we're going to use 1-inch pocket screws, because our top of our desk is also going to be made out of fence pickets, and so we're going to be drilling into 5/8 from 5/8, so we want to use the 1-inch screw. All right, so let me go ahead and add my pocket holes, and then we're going to attach our legs to our wood crate here. I thought I'd just show you my crazy setup real quick. What I've done is I've amassed a collection of drills and impacts, so I don't have to change bits. I have this issue of changing bits. I don't like to change bits. So there's certain bits that I use all the time, so I just make sure I have enough drills and enough impacts to have all the various bits that I use, so I don't have to switch it out. So at any rate, we're going to grab our pocket hole drill here that always has our pocket hole bit in it, and we'll go ahead and drill those pocket holes. So here is the Craig 720 pocket hole setup, and you can see here on the thickness we don't have to worry about, because this automatic adjusts for the thickness of our piece. But then we got to deal with this Mickey Mouse setup. I do not like this setup. I just think it's I don't know, I just don't like it. But at any rate, you see it does have a setting for 5/8 material, and so we have our collar set right there at that 5/8 material. So that is one thing. You got to make sure you change your depth of your bit. I like to have numerous bits for all the different depths of material that I typically use, so I don't ever have to switch this out. And then just use some fingernail polish up top here to differentiate. But this is brand new setup for me, so I haven't had a chance to do that. But at any rate, I would have several of these bits for 5/8, 3/4, 1.5 inch material. But so I've readjusted my collar. So now we're ready to drill our pocket holes. And if you look here on this side, we could just utilize, we could probably utilize those two. No, I think we're better off just utilizing these two for our 2.5-inch material. So we do have all of our pocket holes drilled, and now we're ready to attach our legs to our crate. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to measure from the top where we have our pocket holes drilled here. So you see our pocket holes are here. From the top, we're going to measure down 6 inches on 4 legs. And of course, we're going to put those on the 4 corners of our crate. So that's the first step. Measure down 6 inches, and that's where we're going to place the legs on the crate. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get some wood glue, and we're going to add some wood glue to our leg before we put it onto our crate. But in our case, we're going to mount the leg like this. So we're just going to line this crate up to that 6-inch line, and then we're going to, from the inside here, we're just going to use a few staples, probably 2, 4, 6 staples with that glue to attach our leg to our crate here. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get that done. So we're going to attach one to the front and then one to the back here. And be mindful that our pocket holes will then be facing the outside of our crate. So let me get some wood glue, and we'll get this, we'll get the wood glue applied to our legs, and we'll get our legs attached to our crate, and we'll show you the next step. All right, so there we go. Our legs have been attached. You can see my pocket holes are on the outside all the way around here. Okay, now let's talk about some concerns I have. So the legs are attached to the wood crate through this 1/4-inch slat into my 5/8 leg. And my concern is that these are just 5/8 of an inch staples with some glue. Now the glue is going to do the holding power for the most part. My concern is how, you know, how rigid and sturdy is that? I'm okay. I know the crate is plenty rigid and sturdy. What I'm concerned about is the legs connected to the crate. So one thought I had was take a piece of 2.5-inch material, come to the inside of the crate and screw through it, through the 1/4-inch slat into the outside leg, using maybe either 1.5 inches or 1.25 inches screw. And that, I think, would give us some additional strength. Now, I'm not going to do that right now because I don't really know how necessary it is, but it's just a concern, just something to think about. That is a potential solution. If we just go with a screw through our slat, we could do that too, and that would probably give us more strength than the staples would. But I don't know how much more strength that would give us because the screw length would have to be pretty small. But if we put that little cleat on the inside, 2.5 inches wide, it would look just fine, and I think that would give us our best option to really hold that leg to the crate. Like I said, it may not be that big a deal, but time will tell. We'll give it to the kids and let them tear it up and see you know, how it holds up. But that is just one concern I have. All right. Now we've left the 6-inch gap here because I'm going to put in a drawer right here. So we're going to build a drawer for the front of this. So that's why we've left a 6-inch spacing to allow for a nice, fairly deep drawer there. So now what we have to do is take our remaining 2 leg pieces, and we have to make our other side, because this is just going to have just one crate on the one side and a knee space. I have done this same type of setup before, where I've done one of these on one side, one on the other, with a space in between and then a longer top. But this I didn't want to be quite that long. All right, so let's go ahead and make up this side of our leg, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. I'm going to kind of explain what we're going to do here. So the depth of this is 10 inches. And we know that because our crate's 10 inches. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut some pieces of Picket material to 10 inches. And I think I'm going to cut 3 of them, 10 inches. And then we're going to rip them in half to create these slats like we did for our crate. And so we're going to kind of do the same thing that we did here for our crate on here. But these of course are 2.5 inches wide. So it'll make more sense once we actually start putting it together. So let me go ahead and we're gonna remember when we made our crate sides, these here were 9 inches. Okay, which in this case we're gonna be doing something a little bit different, but it's gonna, the end of our leg on the outside is gonna look similar to what this looks like. But let me get some pieces cut here. So the first thing we want to do is we want to cut 3 pieces Picket material to 10 inches, and then we're going to rip those pieces in half to create the thin 1/4 inch slats. All right, so we're going to show you what we're going to do here. What we're going to do is take our remaining 2 legs, pocket holes face down, and we're going to start with 4 1/4 up top, okay, like so. And then we're going to do 2 1/2, then we're going to do 4 1/4, then we're going to do 2 1/2, then we're going to do 4 1/4, and then finally 2 1/2. Now this is just what I chose to do. You could do it however you want to. What this will give us was it'll give us a leg panel that'll be roughly from the top here, roughly in line with this. It's not quite in line with this, but pretty close. As you can see the distance from here to here is more or less the distance from here to here. If I was going to kind of redo things, I would probably set these panels up to be even so that this was even with that. You know, if I was going to redo it, but for this purpose, it'll be perfectly fine. So that's what we're going to do. And then as far as the spacing between, we're just going to do that. So that'll become our spacer. So we'll put our first one in, spacer, bump it, bump it, bump it all the way down, okay? So really, really simple. We're just going to use our 5/8 inch staples to do this, to attach everything. And then there's a couple of more pieces we're going to add to it. But let's get this assembled. No glue here, we're just using staples. I don't think we're going to use any glue. And put it on there. So you can see that's pretty straightforward stuff. Those are now all attached. And so this is what our end panel is going to look like now. So you see there. So the spacing between these two, we're going to set that at 24 inches. That's kind of the minimum recommended knee space. Could we get by with less? We could get by with less, but in my case, we're just going to use 24 inches for the spacing between this. So you can see it looks pretty good on the outside. What we are going to do though is we are going to put a little horizontal piece here and down here. We're just going to use our 1.5 inch thick material, just like that. I don't know, I might change that now that I'm looking at it. I might go ahead and use 2.5 material there. I think that's what I am going to do. I'm going to make this the same as our legs, just use 2.5 instead of the 1.5 inches. I don't know why I think that'll look better, but I just think it might. So I don't know, I'll do one or the other just to kind of finish it off a little bit. Okay, so let me go ahead and get those added in, and then we'll move on to our next step. So there you go. Okay, that's what the end panel of our desk is going to look like. So now that we have that in place, now we just need to connect our end panel to our other part of our desk here. And to do that, we are going to be using a 3-inch wide board at the top out front here, and in the back, and then down here at the bottom as well. Now, so let's go ahead and get those added in, and then we can kind of move on to the next step. All right, so these wound up being 23 or 22 and 3/4 because we can't get 3 24-inch pieces out of one picket. So, and these are 3 inches wide. So you see I added some pocket holes on either end. And so we're gonna attach, so the pocket holes will fit to the inside and they'll go into that just like so, with some 1-inch pocket hole screws. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach these 3 boards to our leg panel, and then I'm going to lay this on its side and attach them to our main piece here. What I do need to do is I need to measure from the top to the bottom, and whatever that dimension is, transfer it over here so I know where this horizontal piece is really supposed to sit on here. So let me go ahead and do it, and then I'll show you the end result, and it'll probably make a lot more sense to you. Okay, so we have our 3 support pieces added to our leg end panel, and now we're going to attach that to our main crate here. I do want to just show you something. I attempted to use 1.25 just to show you that 1.25 is too long. You can see it busted out here a little bit. So we definitely need to use 1-inch screws when we're going from 5/8 to 5/8. And of course I knew that. Craig tells us to do that. But sometimes inquiring minds want to know, is it really only 1-inch screws or not? And it is, it really is. So if you're going to be doing things with fence pickets and pocket holes, good idea to have some 1-inch screws on hand. So 1/2-inch plywood, you'd use 1-inch screws as well. So at any rate, let's go ahead and attach this assembly to the main box. And then all we have left is the top, and this is pretty well put together. All right, so I wanted to point some things out to you. We do have these attached now, but I do want to point some things out. A couple of things. So on our back support, we could have had the pocket holes on the back side, and then you wouldn't see them on the front side. I actually have a solution for this, and it's the reason I put them on the front side, because we also have some other pocket holes we need to hide. So we'll talk about that here in just a moment. But this is something else I just wanted to point out to you. When you're lining this up right flush with this edge, those 1-inch screws don't have a lot of meat to grab on this board, the one we're attaching it to. It's kind of hard to explain, but they're going in at an angle already, so there's just not much meat here. And so generally what I would recommend is 2 things. Come back just a 1/16 or an 1/8. Here I did it flush just to show you, but I don't feel like this joint is very solid at all. And then I wanted to show you over here something to consider, especially when you're using fence pickets. Fence pickets are very, very, very soft wood. So when we're screwing into, and we don't have much meat here, the joint is not super, super secure anyhow. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. Now, you can see right here on the end, that screw going in actually cracked that board because there's just not much meat there. So that's something else to kind of consider. One thing that could have possibly helped this. Now, if you see here, I came in that 1/16 of an inch. Okay, so that's you could have come in a little bit more, maybe even an 1/8 of an inch. But we also could have put this screw in a little bit more, so it wasn't as close to the edge. In the end, I don't think it's going to really matter a whole lot, but that is something to consider. Now, the reason that this happened wasn't really because it was so close. It was because the board on the bottom, I didn't really think about this, but the board on the bottom was busted out. So that's why that happened. Now, I'm not overly concerned because we're going to use this panel, this strip, to hold our countertop, our desktop in place. So we're going to put some additional pocket holes in here to hold that in place. So like I said, I don't think that's a huge deal, but it is something that we're going to have to see once it's all together, if that's going to be nice and sturdy. Now back here, you can see we came in just a little bit and put the screws in, and they're just fine. It's secure, but you know, it's not super tough. And you can see up here, actually, the pocket hole actually came through here just a little bit. Now that could have been a couple of things. We could have overdrove it. We did use 1-inch pocket holes there. So I'll just take my little flap disc grinder and zip off that little tip there. But you know, just be mindful when we're putting this together. Sometimes we have to make little adjustments as we go. But I think this is going to be perfectly fine. We'll fix whatever needs fixing. Not a big deal. On this little crack here, probably what I'll do is I'll drop in a little bit of wood glue, throw a clamp on it overnight, and that'll be nice and tight, and I won't have to concern myself too much with that. Okay, so now it's just a matter of, I'm going to turn this right side up and get some dimensions for what our top boards need to be. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to measure the length from the outside of this leg to the outside of this leg to get our dimension for our tabletop. Because of what I'm going to be doing with this piece, I want a 2.5-inch overhang on both sides. So I've measured my piece. It is 37.5 inches. And so I'm going to add 5 inches to that, which will give me 42.5. And so my top boards will be 42.5. And so I'm going to go ahead and add, so it's going to be 3 boards, 42.5. And then our cleat on either end will be 2.5 inches wide. So I'm going to go ahead and get that part of it done. And I'll show you kind of what our next step is here. So I went ahead and cut my boards to the 42.5 inches long, and I've ripped me a piece of fence picket that's 2.5 inches wide. And you can see I just connected the 3 boards, a little bit of wood glue, a few staples, 1-inch staples. Make sure you switch out your 5/8 for 1 inch. And same thing on this side. Okay, so now we can just put our top on. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to be using all of our pocket holes. They're facing the outside, so we're going to be using all of our pocket holes to attach our top to our desk. Now there is one more board I'm going to put here in the middle to hold these all 3. It's going to go right here, in between here. But I'm gonna get my top positioned. I'm going to mark it and then take it back out and put it on. Okay. So it'll make more sense here in a second. Let's get our top on, see how it fits, and we'll go from there. So now you can really see it coming together. It looks really good. So you can see here, what we've done is we put our top on, and I just eyeballed it at first, but this works out to be 3.25 inch overhang on the front and a 3.25 inch overhang on the back of the desk. But you can see it's looking pretty slick now. So we still have our opening for our drawer that we're going to be adding. And I think because I'm actually going to be using this as a base for a lemonade stand, I think I'm going to put a shelf in here. Possibly another shelf. I don't really know. Maybe I won't. I don't know. Because we will have a little bit of storage area in our crate. So I don't know, but that's what the desk is looking like. So what I'm gonna do at this point, I think what I've decided is go ahead and utilize our outside pocket holes. We've got 2 there, then we've got these 4 on that side, we've got 4 on this side, and then I think, yeah, inside of here there's a couple on the other side. So we're gonna go ahead and attach the top permanently to the desk, and then we're gonna flip the whole unit over, and we're gonna add a couple of more support boards to hold these boards together in this area right here. Okay, so let me go ahead and get my top attached. We're gonna be using 1-inch screws. And one other thing I wanted to point out is I did leave me just the tiniest bit of wiggle room. See that tiny little bit of wiggle room there? And there's just a sliver of a, so when I measured this, when I said 37.5, it really wasn't quite 37.5. It was just slightly less than that, but I was just using that as my reference to add 5 inches to, and that's where we got the 42.5. But so it just gives us just a little bit of wiggle room to set our top on. All right, and then if we wanted to, which I might do, at least on the front edge, because this overhang's 3 1/4, I might go ahead and rip me a piece and just make my, instead of having this like this, I might just go ahead and, so my top looks a little bit thicker on the front. I don't think we really, well, because we're making a lemonade stand, I guess I will do it to the back side here. But you wouldn't necessarily have to on the back side, but because of what I'm gonna be doing with it, this is gonna be my finished side for the lemonade stand, the customer side, if you will. I'll probably go ahead and do that. All right, so let me go ahead and get this attached, and then we'll get our support boards in, and we'll take a look at the final product here. All right, so I've gone ahead and added that extra cleat we were talking about, flipped it upside down, added the extra cleat. And now what I want to do is I want to take a measurement on the inside and put a board there and put an extra board there just to kind of hold these 3 together. Now, one thing I will point out, when we added the cleat, we took away 5/8 of an inch. We had 6-inch clear here for our drawer, but now with our cleat here, we have 5/8 of an inch less clearance for our drawer. So we'll just have to be mindful of that if and when we make a drawer. I don't know if I'll make a drawer for this one. I might, but that's just something else to consider. If we are going to make a drawer, that we'll have to allow for our cleat. But you can see I put the cleat on the front. I had 2.5-inch wide material, so I just used that 2.5-inch wide cleat on the back. And so, like I said, I'm going to add, just take some scraps that I have, one here, just to kind of hold those boards together a little bit better. Then the last thing we really got to talk about is what we're going to do here. We got to cover this up. We got to cover up these pocket holes so they don't look so ugly. And I have a plan for that, and I'll share that with you. Now these pocket holes you don't see, but these you'll see, and the ones on the ends you'll see. So I'll show you how we cover those up, and then this one will be pretty close to being done. So we just used some scrap. These are 2.5 inches wide, could be whatever. This worked out to be 8 7/8. We just put them in there, a few staples, some wood glue, and that will hold those 3 boards together a little bit better as well. So now the only thing that's really left to do is cover up our pocket holes here on the end. So I have this 1/4-inch material. I have quite a bit of it in various, this happens to be the same width as the leg already. So we're just gonna measure up however deep this is, plus maybe a 1/2 inch, and go ahead and put a little piece in. Now for our horizontals, you can see that piece, even though it's not, this is 3 inch, this is 2.5 inch. We're going to do the same thing. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to bevel this edge a little bit, so it'll just kind of look like it was meant to be that way, and just cover all those up. So again, we'll measure how far we got to come out, plus a 1/2 inch or so right there at the pocket hole, and put these little covers. It'll look pretty good. So that's how I usually handle pocket holes. If I can cover them up like that and kind of turn it into the design, it's not, you know, it looks pretty good. So we're gonna go ahead and do that and give it a final sand and see what the finished product looks like. We're gonna attach these slats with our 5/8 inch staples, so make sure you switch out. 1 inch will bust through, so we've got to switch out to 5/8. So I did decide to go ahead and build a drawer for it. So now you can kind of see what that looks like from the side with the drawer in place. So that makes our completed fence picket desk.